Here's something you need to understand about porn consumption and porn addiction. And what I'm about to explain is probably going to upset a lot of people. Because look, when I make content about how to quit porn and the problems with porn addiction, there's usually two camps of people that fight it out in the comments. On the one side, you have the deniers, people who say, oh, it's fine to watch porn, this is not a real problem, all this stuff about addiction is all some kind of a lie or made up or whatever, right? They're in denial. The other side are people who are already on board with this, people who have recognized, yes, this is a problem, and they're maybe doing nofap or they're trying to quit or whatever. Those are the two sides of this issue. And what I'm about to explain here is a bitter pill to swallow, whether you're on the denier side or whether you already acknowledge that porn is a problem. Let's start with the deniers because this helps explain this problem. So you'll have people who basically say, oh, all of this stuff about how harmful porn is and how much better your life is, how many benefits you experience when you quit porn, all of this is not true. And some of them might have a story they can tell where they go, you know, I quit once for 30 days or for 5 weeks or whatever, and it didn't change anything. It didn't make my life better. Things didn't magically become better. So all of this stuff must be a lie. Well, here's the thing. So let's say that you have someone who is watching, let's say, half an hour of porn every day, every day before bed. That's what you do to fall asleep. You jerk off to some porn that helps you go to sleep, right? So if that's you, and then you stop watching porn for a while and hey, your life doesn't magically get better. It's not that you're suddenly happy and successful and women throw themselves at you and so on. So you're like, oh, all this nofap stuff, all this quitting porn stuff is all nonsense, right? Well, first of all, if you are watching half an hour of porn a day or so, you're not severely addicted yet. And that's important to point out because no one out here who's already spending like 3 hours or 5 hours a day or whatever jerking off to porn, and no one who is so deep in the addiction that they do dangerous things, maybe even illegal things, in order to act out on their desires. So I'm talking about, for example, a married man who is risking his health, his marriage, and his career by soliciting prostitutes in a country or a state where it's illegal to do so, right? If that's you, if you're that deep in the addiction, then you're not in denial. You know it's a problem. And even if it's less extreme, right? Even if you're not severely addicted, you might find that you have erection problems when you're trying to have actual sex. Now, a lot of guys who think of themselves as not addicted to porn, who think that their use of porn isn't doing any harm, they don't even know yet what's happening because they're currently virgins or they haven't had sex with a real person in a long time. So here they are, jerking into porn every day and they think everything's fine. But once you actually try to have sex with someone else, then you suddenly realize, oh, I've trained my brain to get aroused by stuff happening on a screen. I've trained myself to be aroused by watching other people have sex. And now in this situation where I'm trying to have sex with someone that I actually care about, where I'm trying to have a real connection and to have real sex, it doesn't work. So once that happens, you realize, yeah, this was a problem after all. And this realization, this insight is coming for a lot of the deniers. Sooner or later, it gets bad enough that you realize that the stuff I'm talking about is in fact true. But that's not even my main point. Let's go back to this example. Let's say you're someone who's a relatively mild user. You have a relatively mild porn addiction. You watch porn for half an hour a day before bed. So you decide to cut out porn. You stop doing that. And instead, you spend an extra half hour scrolling through TikTok. You spend an extra half hour scrolling through Instagram, looking at bikini pics and thirst traps and stuff. And you tell yourself, well, it's not porn, right? I'm not jerking off to it, so this is fine. You spend an extra half hour on social media doing other stuff, scrolling through feeds, doing other stuff on your phone. Well, of course your life didn't dramatically change. You've just replaced something very harmful with something slightly less harmful. This is kind of like an alcoholic who switches from drinking hard liquor every day to drinking beer and wine every day. Sure, you could argue that this is an improvement. It's probably in some ways better to be an alcoholic who drinks wine and beer than to be an alcoholic who drinks hard liquor. But you're still an alcoholic. And that is the bitter pill to swallow. You have to realize that porn is simply the hardest drug among many digital drugs. And basically anything in the attention economy is just another, usually milder version of the same thing. Now, to understand what I mean, let's briefly talk about dopamine. Because when you have an addiction, when you have a porn addiction or any other addiction, you essentially have a dopamine problem. I'm going to keep this simple. I'm happy to dive deeper into this topic in the future. But for now, let's keep it real simple and just consider that an addiction is a dopamine problem because what it does is it creates these sharp spikes of dopamine. But it gives you this instant gratification, this strong stimulation, and that usually comes from novelty seeking. You get this strong stimulation of here's a new sexy girl in a new position doing a new sexy thing that I haven't seen before. It gives you this spike of dopamine. And here's what happens in your brain. When you have this strong spike of dopamine, it crashes below baseline. Okay, your levels of dopamine, your levels of this hormone crash below baseline, which means that, so the dopamine makes you feel good and makes you feel good quickly in this quick spike. And then once you come down, you feel worse than you did before. This is the key mechanism, right? This is why all addicts, no matter what your substance is, what happens is that in the beginning, you use your substance, so you watch porn, it makes you feel good, but then you feel slightly worse. Because you feel slightly worse and you remember, oh, porn made me feel good, so you watch porn again, gives you another spike, and again you crash lower. Over time, what this basically means is that your normal day-to-day existence becomes more and more miserable. Eventually, addicts need their substance just to feel normal again, just to get to a level of pleasure that used to be normal with no substance, okay? This is the basic addiction problem. So watching porn a lot gives you this quick instant gratification stimulation, but makes you feel generally more miserable, more anxious, more depressed, and just less satisfied. And then you probably use more porn in order to try and feel better again. And guess what? Scrolling through TikTok does the exact same thing. This is why TikTok is addictive. Scrolling through YouTube through the suggested feed, watching YouTube shorts, scrolling through Instagram, you name it. All of these things, also most video games nowadays, are designed to give you these dopamine spikes because that is addictive. That is habit forming. It keeps you coming back for more. And all of these platforms and the majority of video game companies, that's their business model. They get you addicted to the digital drug to keep you coming back for more. So this is why I say that something like TikTok is simply a milder version of the same drug. And if you replace your porn watching with TikTok scrolling or something equivalent, of course it doesn't make a big difference in your life. So to all the deniers who say, hey, I quit porn for 30 days and it didn't change my life. Well, if you quit porn and you replaced it with nonsense, of course it didn't change your life. But like I said, even if you're already on board with the idea that porn is harmful, even if you're already quitting or trying to quit, I also have a bitter pill for you to swallow. And it's basically the same thing. Listen, if you simply remove porn from your life and you replace it with a bunch of nonsense, then you have squandered the opportunity. Because there is a huge opportunity here, okay? Think about it like this. Porn is the hardest of these digital drugs. So it's no wonder that you're addicted to it. Right now, we live in a day and age where the majority of men and a growing number of women have a porn addiction problem, whether they acknowledge it or not. So this is highly addictive stuff. It's no wonder that you're addicted. So this is highly addictive stuff, and it's no wonder that you're addicted. But there is a huge opportunity in this. If you're already on the side of acknowledging that this is a problem and working on solving it, if you learn how to overcome the hardest of these drugs, it means that overcoming the milder versions is going to be easy for you. If you use this as an opportunity to understand what drives your behavior, to dive deeper in your psychology and figure out what is it that drove you to this addiction in the first place, are there underlying issues that you need to solve here? If you use this as an opportunity to learn how to control your mind, how to control your habits, how to design your life so that you live more intentionally and aren't just a victim, aren't just being like puppeted around by your urges, by your desires, by your monkey mind, essentially. That is a huge opportunity, but only if you apply it to the rest of your life. This is your opportunity to learn the tools to free yourself and to live a better life. And in simple terms, here's the key to making this happen. It is to recognize, okay, porn is giving me this junk food dopamine. It is hijacking my brain's dopamine system, which is the part of my biology that's supposed to make me go out and do things, right? It's like this desire and reward. It's like I want something, for example, I want to have sex, and you're supposed to like go out into the world and do something. And it's supposed to drive action and drive growth. But instead, you're just short-circuiting that, giving yourself like a massive amount of immediate reward, right? It's like your brain thinks, oh, here's all these women. Your brain feels, or part of you feels like you're having reproductive success at a massive scale, right, with hundreds and thousands of women. And so you're not doing anything out in the real world. You're not being driven to go out and do anything. And instead you get stuck in this dopamine spike and crash cycle of misery. So if you recognize that and go, okay, hold on, let's avoid this kind of junk dopamine and let's replace it with healthy dopamine. Let's use this drive and this desire I have to actually get the best versions of dopamine. The best versions of dopamine are things like exercise, right? You go out and you exercise. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. You're moving your body. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel healthy. It's amazing. It also releases dopamine, right? So dopamine is not a bad thing. The goal is not to be dopamine free. Dopamine is a great thing. But there's a huge difference between the junk, spiky dopamine that you get from porn and video games and stuff like that, and wholesome, healthy dopamine that you get from things like exercising, from building things, creating things in the real world, from learning new skills, from gaining mastery over something, and also, of course, from socializing, from interacting with people in real life, including, flirting, dating, having sex, and so on. All of these things give you the dopamine you crave, but give it to you in a way where you don't have this spike and crash. It's like a much slower dopamine release. Because yes, going to the gym makes you feel good, but you have to do stuff, right? So you have to go out, you have to go to the gym, spend half an hour to an hour there, and you're getting like this slow dopamine release over that entire period instead of, bam, here's a picture, here you go. So if you learn how to do that, if you learn to recognize those addictive junk dopamine sources, and you learn to control yourself and control your habits, control your desire, and redirect, like avoid those things and do those positive things instead, it will dramatically change your life. If you use this porn addiction as an opportunity to realize, hey, there's a problem here, which is I don't have awareness, right? I'm like living in autopilot mode, and I'm living in a way that I don't actually want to live. I'm not living in line with my values and my wishes. What's going on here? And then you start doing something like introspective writing, and you start doing meditation. You start doing things to develop your own ability to introspect and your own self-awareness. That will benefit you in so many other areas of life. And I could go on with examples of how you can look at your porn addiction problem, go, I need to level up here. I need to learn a skill. I need to develop something new that will then make your life better overall. But like I said, the bitter pill to swallow is that if you don't do any of those things, then you are squandering this opportunity. You're wasting the opportunity of a lifetime here. If you just become someone who says, yeah, I used to jerk off to porn a lot and there was a problem. Now I just spend loads of time on social media and I'm glued to my phone all day like everyone else. It's like, well, that's a real shame. Sure, you're not doing porn anymore, but you haven't really improved that much, have you? It's not enough to just quit porn and then wait for the magic to happen. That's not how it works. You have to take responsibility for your life. Look, we'd all like an easier answer, right? The porn deniers, I understand why you're in denial. It would be nice to say, hey, this isn't the problem. I can keep doing this and there's no negative consequences. Of course, we would rather believe that our actions are not harmful than admit that they are. Of course. And to the no-fappers and people who are already quitting porn, but not doing the work I just described, again, of course, we would like for there to be just a single problem, just a single thing. If you just cut out porn, everything else in your life will fall into place. Everything will be wonderful. Wouldn't it be nice if life was that simple? But I want you to succeed, and I want you to succeed at more than just cutting porn out of your life and coping with your addiction for the rest of your life. That is what Quit by Healing is about. So let me know your thoughts on this. And if you're ready to do this kind of work and use this opportunity to level up your life, let me know by leaving a comment below this video.